the biggest question of the day, no matter what I've listened to, watched, so on and so forth, is whether or not Vogel should have had Roy Hibbert out on the court on the final possession of the game where LeBron was able to drive past Paul George and lay it in with 2 seconds left to win the game for Miami in overtime. So I'll ask you guys first before I get into it. Mike, we'll start with you since we got you back on here on a Thursday. Did Vogel make the right choice or wrong choice by having Hibbert on the bench instead of on the court in that final situation?
I mean, just by the way things went, obviously, hindsight 2020, you can always say he made a mistake just because of the way he completely blew past George and no one came over to try to help him out. Obviously, you would think with Hibbert on the court, you have a better chance of someone coming over. But listen, Paul George played that play totally over-aggressive. LeBron just kind of fed off his momentum and rolled to the basket. At least the way I was looking at it. Someone else would have came over, maybe they would have been able to at least get a body in front of him, or maybe LeBron would have just gone past them. It's no guarantee that if Hibbert was on the court, LeBron still don't do the same damn thing he did. But just by how it went, obviously you're going to say it was a mistake, considering how easy LeBron made it look getting to that basket.
This is true. Eric, What are you thinking? I was going to talk to you about it on the ride down, but I figured it'd be more fun to save it for here.
Just defensive breakdown, but, he's trying to guard the best player in the league. Not really an easy task for anybody.
Well, I'm saying, do you think Hibbert should have been on the court? Or do you think Vogel played it right by worrying about the shooters on the outside?
I think Hibbert should always be on the court. Because, like I told you before, Miami with Wade and LeBron, as I stated yesterday, they drive the paint. With Melo and J.R. Smith, they pull up and shoot. It's two different styles. That's why you have to play Hibbert on the floor. I understand if you don't put Hibbert on the floor when you're playing a team like the Knicks because you're only worried about the jump shot. You have to worry about the dribble penetration and the drive from Wade and LeBron with the Heat. You have to worry about that. So for that reason alone, I would have kept Hibbert on the court. But in my mindset, I told you yesterday, I think Hibbert, if there was going to be a difference maker for Indiana, I thought it would be Hibbert. And it would have to be Hibbert because he's got to control the paint. And he wasn't in there to do that in the biggest moment last night. So the only person I blame is Frank Vogel.
And see, and the reason I completely agree with you is for the fact that on the possession before, with a little under 11 seconds left for Miami, pretty much the exact same thing took place. They took Roy Hibbert out of the game. LeBron James drives the hole and scores a basket to put Miami up 2. I understand you after games you watch the tape and you learn from the mistakes that you made. You made that mistake once. There's no excuse in my book that 10 seconds later you make the same mistake again.
Well, the difference is with 2 seconds left, they're figuring in their heads, well, they got enough time to inbounds and maybe dribble once or twice, and somebody's got to put up a shot. Mm-hmm. They're not expecting with 2 seconds left that LeBron's going to drive the hole. But that's what easily can happen, and that's where Frank Vogel messed up coaching-wise, is because you have to know that that's a possibility. And he didn't think it was with 2 seconds left. I'm telling you, that's the reason he didn't have Hibbert on the court is because with 2 seconds left, he didn't think there was any chance that they'd be driving to the hoop.
And fair enough, but to me, like we said, and we all are in agreement on this, Roy Hibbert's your difference maker. It's a defensive possession. You have to play the percentages. I get the fact 2.2 seconds, you're like, that's going to be really hard to get to the hole. It's LeBron James. He catches it inside the three-point line. Now, I understand Roy Hibbert overplayed it, and he let him get by him, and I think Paul George does deserve a little bit of the blame as well because he obviously was trying to make LeBron take a jump shot, and that did not happen. But I'd rather let Chris Bosh shoot a 20 to 25-foot jump shot than let LeBron James lay it up at the hole uncontested.
No.
And like I said, you live and learn from the previous mistake that you just made 10 seconds beforehand by letting LeBron do that to you on the previous possession, which gave them the lead, and you just got saved by a foul call on Wade when George is shooting a three. You got saved on that. That was a ticky-tack call. I get why they made the call, but...
And especially because they made the call, that same call earlier in the game against Chris Bosh, in the same similar circumstance, you have to make the call the other way. If you're going to call it one way, you got to call it the other as well.
True. I will say, to me, it looked more like the contact happened after the ball left his hand than anything. But, I'll give you, if they made the call early in the game, they have to make it at that point.
They called it with Bosh shooting a three.
But I'll go back to your original point, though. I mean, we see it all the time, the coaches that try to overmanage and go with specific lineups for specific situations. You have to go with the guys who got you there in the big moments, and you have to go push your best players on the floor in the important spots. So to that, Hibbert should have been on the court for that because he is their best interior player. Even though, I'll be honest, David West had a good game last night. Paul George, even though he got off to a slow offensive start, did a good job against LeBron James. And the shot he made at the end of the fourth quarter, that was an amazing freaking shot right there. So I thought they played well. And it's sad the way they lost because you really felt that was probably their best chance to, they could have taken game one and made a really good series out of it. I said, to me at the beginning, I think they're going to be lucky to push it to 7 games. Last night was a really important one for them to have to at least take a step in that direction.
You know what? I agree. I think this is a game where that's the positive part of an NBA, playoff series is that you get 7 games to win the series. Mm-hmm. It's not a one-and-done scenario because I think if this was one and done, you'd have a lot of people freaking the hell out a lot more than they are. Mm-hmm. I will say that I don't know if you guys will agree or disagree with this, though. If I'm Indiana, no, I'm not walking away from this game happy. But at the same time, I can't walk away from this game with my head held down because we hung with them the entire time. One of the only times all year we were able to break over 100 points, and we do it in Eastern Conference Finals in Game 1. There are enough positives in this game for Indiana to not be that upset about the loss. I mean, you're still not going to be happy you lost a game that was in your hands to win. But at least you have that to build off of. But I really think Vogel screwed his team by taking Hibbert out. You tried it the first time. It gave LeBron a layup. You can't try it a second time and think you're going to get a different result. You just can't. It's like touching the stove. You burn yourself the one time. You don't go touch the stove again.
Unless you're Bart Simpson.
Mm-hmm. And to me, that was as ignorant as Vogel looked last night, was where he burned himself and then said, oh, well, let's try again. Maybe I won't get burned this time. And it's like, I get the short time. I do. But even with Hibbert in there, then you're still forcing LeBron to make a pass, which owns even more time. You're forcing the jump shot to be rushed, which makes it less of a higher percentage shot. To me, there's more than enough things in there that it just doesn't make sense for him to have taken Hibbert off the court. It's really that simple. I just don't get how you could do it.